Alright, I should be live. Welcome everybody. I am Dishana, back again. I'm going to be running a favorite game of mine, Beyond Oasis, or Story of Thor as it was known outside of North America. This game was sort of Sega's answer to the Legend of Zelda series. They had an adventure game where you're wandering around picking up collectibles, going through dungeons, and I think it's a pretty worthy successor. I don't know that I would say it's as good as Link to the Past. Certainly not as many people have nostalgia for it, but it is very good. And it's also a really great speed game, so I'm really excited to show it off. I currently have the 4th fastest time for any percent on speedrun.com. If you want to see a really top level run, go check out Delicatets. He did a Summer Games Done Quick. He did a run of this just this past year. Go check that out if you like what you see here. So timing is going to start when I put in my name. I'm going to go with RGL. Nice and classy. All right. So this game is really neat. It's got sort of like some fighting game combos that you can do with the base weapon, a bunch of different weapons that we're going to pick up. I will be skipping a lot of this. It's an 80% run, so I'll point out some neat stuff. Wish me luck. Here we go. It's the story of the game. You are playing Prince Ali. He's prince of this country. He's off on a boat doing some exploration, like ruins diving, and he finds this gold armlet that you can see on his left arm here. And when he gets back from doing his pillaging, he notices this village here is under attack by monsters. And here we are. There's a little bit backstory and a cutscene with some really nice pixel art that we skipped, unfortunately, because, we gotta go fast. That was not a very clean fight there. You gotta kill the big ogre guy. You can get him kind of trapped in this hut entrance here in the left, if you're really good. But moving on, here's our mentor. He's going to tell us that the monsters started attacking while he was away. They might be attacking his family. Let's go check on the castle. So I grabbed that cheese there just as a little bit of marathon safety. The game has healing items that are all food, and it's percentage based. So the wheel of cheese is going to heal me by a quarter of my max HP. And then there's a 50%, a 75, and 100, and then the black bar underneath my health on the left or right hand side of the screen, depending on where Ollie is, that will eventually fill up, be blue. It is essentially our mana, but it's called SP in this game for spirit points. So we're going to be collecting 4 different elemental spirits as we go through this game, as my father here is about to explain. So he says, "Oh, I've heard about this, the gold armlet. If that's really what it is, then that makes sense why monsters are attacking. So it's our family's duty to go master these spirits." There's some lore back in the castle you can go read after you're playing casually, explain some stuff. But we skip on by, and we're going to go straight onto the dungeon. So as I run and make my way, I'll talk a little bit about why I think this is a really good speed game. I think one of the definitions of like a good game for speedrunning is that movement is fun, and it's also something that you can optimize without, task level precision. And so in this game, you'll notice that I'm sprinting pretty much constantly, getting trapped on the stairs by this guy. You double tap forward and he starts to run like this. Obviously much, much faster than just normal walking, right? But when you do a screen transition, the game stops your momentum. So Ali is, if you just hold left, like when you're going left through a screen, he'll be doing a walking animation instead of running, even if you run through the door. But there's a little bit of a buffer between the screen transitions where you can input whatever direction you know you're going to have to run, and you can start the screen while sprinting. And I think that's a really neat movement innovation. Another one is these ledges that you see me. One second, gotta kill this guy for a key. There's a really neat Z level implied by this game. Obviously, being on the Sega Genesis, you can't do full real 3D, so this is implied 3D through some clever 2D drawing. So when I can drop down here, you just notice that he does a really long, just like waiting. But if you press the jump button, you can make him instantly skip that animation, and over the course of the run, it saves a lot of time. And it's a little just little tiny optimizations like that that you can do that I think makes this game really great, and like you can notice yourself get better. And as with any speed game, as you get better at the game, you know, you'll get faster and faster times. This is one of those where it really starts to show as you get those little nuances down. Alright, and we're going to kill this crab. If we do it correct, I've got a spin attack I can do with my dagger. It should give me iframes to just take him down. Got hit once there, but hey. Alright, so here's going to be our first spirit. This is Ditto, the water spirit. She's a fairy. Extremely, extremely useful playing the game casually, as she can cast a heal spell. And as you can imagine, when you're playing through a game where you're in combat pretty much constantly, healing is extremely useful. We don't take advantage of her very much throughout this run. I'm getting rid of her right away. We're going to use her to open up the next dungeon, and you know, in a normal casual run, there's quite a few fire barriers that you need to use her bubble attack to kind of dispel. And again, the heal, very nice casually. We don't tend to use many of the spirits except for Ifrit, the fire spirit that we're about to go get in the speed run. So we just head up here. I'm going to resummon Ditto again. Throw up a ball of water so we can open up this dungeon. This game is nice enough when you have her out, it'll explain to you, hey, use the bubble attack and it'll open the dungeon. So the Ifrit dungeon, there's a lot of little secret stuff in this dungeon that we absolutely ignore and just completely blow by. Okay. You can get a quick kill here that I missed by having him actually hit that flame instead of being too far. Oh well. So here's one of those fires. Her bubble attack like can dispel those like you just saw, but most of those we end up finding some other way around because it's typically faster to just have it freed out to beat up the bad guys for us. Spooky Skull Guy is our next boss. We just kind of sit here and wail on him. If you've got the sword that we picked up in the first dungeon, he is not too big a deal. Got him in 2 cycles pretty fast. It is theoretically possible to get him in 1. It's pretty much TAS only though. And then like a very quick 2 cycle can be done faster than that. So we've grabbed our second spirit here, Ifrit. He's the one we're going to be using through the vast majority of the game when we have a spirit out. He can breathe fire, he can turn into a fireball and shoot across the screen, which we can sort of control, and then he can do a big explosion attack. We take advantage of the fireball to kind of position him a few times. Largely, you know, he also just floats around and punches people as a big fire genie, and that's always fun to see. This is the point at which normally you have to head to a side dungeon and then a boat ride and then a cave dungeon before you can head to the next area. People, villagers, please. But what we're going to do, we're going to take advantage of this game actually being extremely tightly programmed. Anytime that you change screens and transition like that, like I was saying, it puts Ollie in the walking state if you're holding the button, and it does that because it completely resets Ollie to a set position in the room based on which exit you're taking. And so it's to avoid collisions in instances where you might get stuck or prevent yourself from moving, but we'll take advantage of it to just kind of walk up in the mountains. This seems normal, right? The game is supposed to act like this, I'm pretty sure. We're going to carefully use the pseudo 3D multiple Z levels that the game has and just completely abuse that. Have to walk a pretty tight path here where we don't trigger the Z level that is like the middle of the cliff sprite, but we can't go too far down either so that the game realizes our Z level is actually on that grass. Now, ideally, you can sprint through this and make it go fast, but for marathon safety, I'm taking a couple of saves and we're just walking, because you have to start the whole thing over if you mess it up. So, all right, a little bit of out of bounds action here. We are off the screen in such a place that you can't see what Ollie is doing. There is a helpful guide made by Delicatesse, the world record holder, on speedrun.com, which, if you follow, you can get through here, but it's definitely not like a guess and check. You have to do a very specific set of movements that I hopefully am doing correct. And all of this is leading somewhere, I promise. I'm not just watching a empty screen for no reason. Making a couple of safety saves. And as soon as I see Ollie here, he's going to show up on the right side there. Okay. And 3 running jumps. There we go, left. A little bit more. I swear, this game is really well programmed. It's just that the fact that they had so many protections built in to prevent this stuff, the few places that they messed it up, it's really broken. And I'll take advantage of that. So here we are, 3 dungeons later in the story progression, and none of those involved any sort of, in Metroidvania sense, progression items, progression checks, so we just don't do them. In this dungeon, you do actually need to set a flag from combat in order for the next dungeon to be possible to get to. So, do a couple of item pickups here. I'm going to be grabbing some bombs that I will need for later. Extra health is always helpful. One thing that I would stress, if you do want to pick this game up, casually or speedrun, please make sure that you have an emulator that can use a 6-button controller or have a 6-button controller. X, Y, and Z all have menu functions, so I'm getting directly into my weapon and items menu, and then, wow, some aggressive NPCs. Using the mode button on the 6-button controller, you can hold mode and hit the attack button, and it will queue up the previous weapon that Ollie was holding. It'll swap between that and the default knife that he starts with, which I have not pointed out. The sword that I picked up, you might have noticed, has a number on it. Every weapon in this game has durability, kind of like Breath of the Wild, where you use the weapon enough and it's going to break on you. So I have 16 more uses of this sword, 5 bombs, and a hyper bomb here. There are hidden items throughout this game that we do not get in any percent, but are extremely useful casually, that have infinite uses that are not just the starting knife. One of them is a flaming sword that is the strongest weapon in the game, and so having that with unlimited uses, as you can imagine, is pretty nice. The flip side of that is, to get that infinite flame sword, you have to do a 100 floor dungeon in which you cannot use items, and it is every 10 floors there's a boss encounter, and then 9 floors of randomly generated enemies. It's super fun, one of my favorite parts of the game, especially as a kid growing up. This is like always enamored with this mega dungeon. Obviously we don't go into that in the 80% run. I like these little blue guys. They're real spiky, and the pixel art in this game is pretty top-notch, as is the sound design, I think, for the Genesis's sound capabilities. It's pretty top-notch. Do a little bit of marathon safety here and heal up really quick. So each of these little blue circles is a pretty decent heal. There are hidden throughout this game 10 jewels of there's blue, red, black, and green. One color for each of the 4 elemental spirits we'll be picking up. And as you grab those, they make your spirits more powerful. Their abilities will do more damage or heal more HP, or, you know, depending on the other two, don't mostly do combat. And so the heal will become much more powerful as you play through the game casually. As you saw, for me, it wasn't like a huge heal. I used 4 or 5 applications to get mostly 50% of my HP back. Get a couple of jewels, and that's going to be a 50% heal each time. And again, the game's very accessible if you just want to play through it. It's got a pretty decent story. The English translation, the Beyond Oasis story, is a little bit janky compared to the story of Thor. Things got kind of weird in the translation, but it's still very good. So I highly encourage everybody to play this game casually, and then if you enjoy this sort of adventure game, speedrunning, this game is amazing, and I highly, highly recommend it. Lots of resources, and by lots I mean me. It's not a lot. Alright, we gotta get through these ogres. This dungeon is one of the hardest to do really fast. There's a lot of little optimizations that you can see in the world record run that I'm not going to be going for. Ideally, I want to have my fire guy with me, but I did not summon him off of the bomb guys. That's alright. I'll use a sword. Yeah, so this is one of those rooms where having the genie around just punching these robots is extremely helpful. Use some decisive swings. Nice. The grapes are 100% SP refill. They are one of the most useful items in the game. Got to light these little bonfires. Get rid of him. Oh, those grapes. My health is looking a little rough. Glad I grabbed that cheese at the beginning. Alright, so I've got to do a little bit of combat here. We've triggered a trap. I have gargoyles dropping in, these little fuzzy guys. I think they're little demons. Their horns are indicative of that. They do take damage from the spikes. This game has a lot of interaction with the environments. Don't just affect you, they also affect the enemies. So we can use that to our advantage and just let them die on the spikes. Or we could get stun locked by the spikes too, I suppose. Alright, we're gonna grab a free here, and hopefully we can do a slight... Oh, he went up. I was trying to tell him to go down. Get him. No. So the idea is, you put Ifrit down on the ogre on the left-hand side, and he can punch him up onto this switch. Maybe get him to walk up here. No. Fair enough. And so you don't have to kill him, and then throw this bomb that I'm about to open up this teleport. The game was not cooperative. Alright, we are about to come into my favorite boss in the game. This is the Silver Armlet. We've had a couple of run-ins with this character if you're playing through the story linearly, but this is the first appearance. And they're just like, hey, I'm gonna drop you into a hole. There's a giant snake. And not just any giant snake. This thing is straight out of H.R. Geiger. Nice, alright. It is possible to get a 1 cycle on this boss, but it is extremely tight timing. I think we're going to get a pretty easy 2 cycle here, assuming he cooperates and ever sticks his tongue out again. This is definitely a boss where you do not want to go more than 2 cycles, though, because as he gets further and further along this track, he gets less and less likely to stick the tongue out, which is, again, the only way to hurt him. And, yeah, you can lose a lot of time if you don't get him in 2 cycles. So, that was pretty good. Took a bunch of extra damage there. Had to use some healing items, but overall, not too bad of a snake fortress. What that did, it allowed us to open up these little rifts in time. us teleport around. We're going to take advantage of that. To basically skip ahead again. We're going to go do the next dungeon linearly, which is the dungeon. It's in a volcano. It's really cool visuals. Sorry, this game does require quite a bit of mental concentration, because you have to be constantly moving and trying to make sure your motions through the screen are as optimal as possible. So yeah, we're going to do this dungeon, pick up Shade, the third spirit, and then we're going to take pretty big advantage of that teleporter that we just picked up. There's a long circuitous route into the fourth dungeon that can be completely bypassed using a hidden portal. The portal exists on the map, but you can't see it, and so if you don't know it's there, you'll just go the long way. We'll just pop on it and save quite a bit of time. As we make our way through this volcano, appreciate the beautiful chill vibes of this song, because it's not going to stay that way. Oh gosh, normally he gets unlocked. This room can be a real hassle. These bats love to come and say hi and give hugs to Ollie, and we don't like that. Got a teleporter. Alright, so the point of that was to grab the green key so you could come in here. We're going to do our first of my favorite speedrun techs, the bomb jump. I said, there's a whole dungeon to do, right? There is, but I only need the red key out of it, so I'm just going to grab that. And then we're going to skip right to the boss of this dungeon. Assuming that I can make this jump that I'm about to attempt within the first 2 tries, because I think that's how many extra bombs I have. If not, we might be doing this room. Nice, got it the first try. That is not an easy trick to do, but it saves at least 2 minutes, because I'm bad at the room, and doing the platforms the normal way is very slow. Here we come to our friend Trogdor. He's trying to burninate us. We're going to stun lock him with a bubble and then shove him up against the entrance and just, yeah, hard boss. Real hard boss. Casually, this guy can be kind of a pain. He can move all around the arena. His head articulates. The sprite work, fantastic. 10 out of 10. We don't even let him breathe. Take advantage of this room giving us free SP. We'll grab a full heal. Hey, here we get Shade. So they all tell you, they have a little tutorial here that explains what their abilities are. Shade can do tap A to claw, which we use to grab some items and get across some gaps. He can create a doppelganger, which can be useful in a couple of situations. And he does not have a double tap. But what he does have is if he's out and you fall in a pit, he will save you without you taking any damage, which quite useful. He will also take damage for you from any other source, like that. You just saw him, the Shade, kind of like spasm out when I stepped on that spike. While he's out and you still have SP, Shade will take damage for you in the form of SP instead of your HP. So, again, and just sort of playing through the game as it's intended to be played, Shade and Ditto are both extremely, extremely useful for their ability to keep you alive. We come to a platforming section that I'm going to immediately fail the quickest execution at. Just jumping around at the speed of sound. And then we're going to grab another useful little nugget of lore that we don't actually pay any attention to in the speedrun. But we also get given a ring that improves our SP generation when we're outside, which is pretty handy. Since we don't ever pick up any level ups, you might have noticed there's little red hearts on the ground the enemies drop sometimes that I've been studiously ignoring. Those are rank ups. You do have a level in this game, and you can level up through killing the enemies. They randomly will drop them after a certain number. That increases your max HP, that increases your max SP. As far as I know, doesn't affect damage at all, but staying alive, pretty handy. So you want to grab those a lot in a normal playthrough. Point though, since I don't have any rank ups, my SP max is very low, and so anything that's going to boost its natural generation is pretty handy. We have to talk to that guy to get the warp to open up, so it's kind of a moot point, but the ring is useful as well as the progression check. So running back through here, the forest, I'm just going to take a quick detour to show this off. This is the 100th floor dungeon. It's hidden just behind a tree. You fall into a pit, and there's 100 combat encounters to get you the best weapon in the game. Every 10 floors also offers some sort of a reward, some of which are very unique to that area. So yeah, you take that portal and you skip straight into this dungeon. Quite handy. See if I can get all 3 of these gargoyles to dive. Oh, they dive. They went in opposite directions where I needed them to go. So this is probably the longest and most technical dungeon in the game. If there's one door at the end of the game that if we could find a way to get past, you would not need to do this dungeon at all. We could skip straight from here, where I just was running on the beach, to the end of the game. So I will point out the door when I get to it. That's like the white whale of this game for us. There's so many ways to get out of bounds in a bunch of different areas. But that one, I don't know, they might have gone over it with like a fine-tooth comb because we cannot figure out a way. There's a type of door that the spirit that we're going to grab from this dungeon, Bow, his bite attack is the only thing in the game that will open those doors. There's one right before the last boss. And this dungeon is, as I said, the longest and certainly the most technical of any of the dungeons in this game. So to be able to shave off 15-20 minutes would be pretty awesome. Oh no, I miscounted the hits. That's alright. Use shade to grab this key. So the idea behind this dungeon, there's a bunch of torches that are unlit, and we're going to go around and light them all. And by doing so, we're going to open up the boss encounter. Now, the torches are hidden everywhere, and so we do have to explore pretty much the entirety of this dungeon. There's a couple of minor skips that I'm going to do, but not much. You just kind of have to do the dungeon and do it as best as you can, which I kind of enjoy. There's a certain aspect of, finding these glitches and going out of bounds and skipping 40% of the game. It's neat. I definitely enjoy that. But also just, tight technical execution of the game is another really fun aspect of speedrunning. So this room's got 4 bonfires that we need to light. 2 over there. I wanted to have an extra shot of the bow to hit that one, but miscounted hits from Ifrit. Which kill them. It spawns these 4 little weird brain ball tentacle things. I'm sure they have an official name. They're kind of gross though. We ideally want to use Ifrit to kind of hit them while they're in the air, but he's not playing nice today. We have been quite lucky with our food drops since getting into this dungeon, so that's handy. Come on, sir. You can punch. I believe in you. So So yeah, I talked a little bit at the start about how there's some special moves, sort of like a fighting game. One of them you've seen me do quite a bit is this sort of jumping slash. That one hits multiple times. Really? Oh my gosh. I'm trying my hardest to have him hit torch. Here we go. So then there's also the spin move that I used against the crab. The swords have their own spin move. The bombs don't have anything special that I'm aware of. They do in the sequel on Sega Saturn. There are bows. Those don't have any specials in this one either. Oh yeah. Everybody check out the Legend of Oasis on the Sega Saturn. I know everybody owned a Sega Saturn at some point. It was the most popular console ever. So make sure to go dig out your library of Sega Saturn games and check that one out. It's like this, only a lot more advanced. Hey buddy, could you float up just a little bit? Thanks. Cool. Grab this key. Oh no, that was a rock to my face. I can see these things floating underwater instead of through the air. It's kind of disconcerting that they're in the air. The shape off puts me. Yeah, so that heart there, that is a level up. It's called a rank up, but, you know, colloquially, you can call it a level. Grab this full heal. Although I do actually want to take quite a bit of damage in this next room. Maybe I didn't want to use the full heal. So we're going to take advantage of a really neat death glitch in this game. If you die in the same frame that you screen transition, you will put yourself into a zombie state, wherein the game doesn't ever really interact with you, but you can still interact with certain things. Get this bomb jump eventually. Only doesn't take that many tries. That's one of the minor skips I was talking about. You can summon Ditto from somewhere else in the dungeon and then blow out the water, but we'll take advantage of, once again, of the pseudo 3D and the Z levels being kind of wonky, especially with bombs. And fire damage will kill these zombies in one hit. You can just attack them and kill them normally, but they have a chance to like bifurcate, and you'll have a top half and a bottom half, and the top half just like clawing along. It's kind of scary as a kid. I was scared of these zombies. I guess I want to let them hit me a bit. Also interesting thing, I don't know what it really has to say, but there's a garlic and a mushroom item that the zombies drop and have a much higher chance to drop than almost any other enemy in the game. Maybe something to do with vampires and undead, I'm not sure. But they're both really useful items because the mushroom is a 25% heal to both HP and SP, and the garlic is a 75% heal of both. Alright, so I've been running around this dungeon, throwing bombs at torches, lighting up bonfires, right? And taking damage on purpose. I promise a lot of this has been on purpose. And all of this is to open this middle door here, this one that's blocked off. We have 2 more torches, I want to say, if my memory is serving me correctly. Can make this in 1. Nice, 1 cycle. Check HP really quick. 38. That'll put me at 13. That'll put me at 8. That'll put me at 3. Alright. Yeah, that jump is not easy, and if you miss, it's actually faster to go back out and try for it again than it is to wait for the cycle. Okay, so we've gotten down to enough HP where taking another hit from this bomb is going to kill us, and we're going to die while we go through this teleporter. So what this does, my HP and my SP are both completely empty. And so this boss's AI is never going to activate. which is a good thing because he is not an easy boss. He likes to spin around the room and drop rocks from the ceiling and punch you. Just all around kind of a pain. But way back at the beginning of the game in Ditto's dungeon, we grabbed an elixir that saves us from death. One time. You have to do that because if you don't, you can't leave the room. None of the doors work anymore. And we're on a bus. Yep, that's what I wanted. That's my favorite sound. I like hearing it. Alright. This is kind of a pain of a boss. You'd think, I thought, for sure, at first, that the enemy was this wizard-looking dude. But no, it's the orb he's sitting on. You can actually go through 4 or 5 wizards and not have done any damage to the boss. The orb itself is the boss. Kind of funky. We didn't ever give him a chance to do like any of his attacks. I think he threw out 1 volley of lightning, but he can summon a bunch of weird alien-looking stuff and shoot out those lasers. It's that boss, if you don't do pretty much exactly what I did, is a nightmare. Orb? Correct. Alright, so once you get Bao, what the game wants you to do is to go back to the castle and find out, oh no, your sister's been kidnapped, and the silver armlet, who, again, we've seen once, is a constant presence throughout the narrative of the game. Forces us to go to a dungeon that's underneath the castle, and we find out that the family's been hiding secrets and grab an item. We're going to go give that item to Silver Armlet, despite having never gone into the dungeon, because the game doesn't actually care that you have this cube, it just cares that you've gotten to the cutscene. So we take advantage of that same exact spot in the forest where we did our first out of bounds. Oh, thanks, man. My back was really sore. Thanks for stretching it out. But we went a different direction, and we're skipping ahead here to the last, I guess, the penultimate dungeon. They're both pretty long, the last 2, so I would say we're, more than halfway done, but still quite a bit of content left. We're gonna walk in here, try and skip a barrier. Nope. Alright. So I gave the cube that I totally had, and definitely went through a dungeon to get, to Silver Armlet in exchange for my sister back. So I get a necklace, which I want to say is something to do with your HP regenerating passively. I don't know. I'm bad. All I know is that you pick it up because it's part of the story. So we're gonna grab Ifrit here. We have to do a combat heavy dungeon. So this first room involves killing everything in here. We're gonna try and group them up at the bottom. Let Ifrit just kind of punch him. The fact that his attacks have cleave and are pretty strong. They're mostly stronger than the alt knife's swing attacks, so definitely want to take advantage of him while we can. Run up through here. We're gonna do a neat little damage boost. We're gonna skip through that. No rocks. Actually, get rid of Ifrit. Try and summon Ditto. Sorry. Summon her down here. Health's looking a little low. Heal up. Some SP. SP and HP. And then we will summon Ifrit again. Assuming we don't get stun locked, which is very, very possible to just get stun locked. Especially these little turret guys. Which they kind of confused me the first time through. Like, most of this game has been pretty high fantasy. Like, you got ogres like this guy, these little raccoon men. I don't know what they are. They're very adorable. And then out of nowhere, you get like these mechanized turrets that are shooting bullets, and it's like, that seems kind of out of place, but it's kind of intriguing. Well, if you would like an answer as to why there's advanced technology, it's not just randomly thrown in. The sequel delves into it because it is, in fact, a prequel on the Sega Saturn. Pretty neat stuff. know that I could speak to what the exact specifics of the story are. It's been quite a while since I've owned a Sega Saturn. I do remember enjoying that game quite a lot. Oh god, I don't like these things. It's like tremors all over. Oh. Okay, we were not supposed to get grabbed by that guy even once, let alone twice. I think... Oh, goodness gracious me. I was saying, I think I want to take a heal, but I'll just use a chestnut. I know it's supposed to be some sort of a meat, but I always like calling it a chestnut. I don't know. The sound design in this game is off the charts, guys. I'm telling you, it's great. Cool. We're going to do another bomb skip here. I've got a couple of tries more than bare minimum, which is nice. What we want to do is get put into here, come down. Not ideal. Okay. Nice. All right. So, by skipping all of those, what we've done is set our Z level to somewhere the game does not fully know what to do with us, and so we're gonna be able to grab this key when we are absolutely not supposed to be able to. It's kind of hard to tell, just at a glance, what the Z levels are in this room, but there's 3 or 4 separate ones, and you start off on the highest one. The key is on the lowest, and so you have to do some shenanigans. See if we can trick this guy into opening this up for us. Come on, one more. There we go. Thanks, man. Appreciate that. Alright, so this is the first instance of a door that you need bow to open. It is entirely possible to get out of bounds through this one. It would change the routing of this dungeon for sure, if we could find a way around the next one. But that one's doable. These little spark guys are kind of a nuisance. Okay, grab 30 hyper bombs, which we very much are going to be taking advantage of throughout the rest of the game. So we light a torch up there. Oh, okay. This guy sometimes will run himself into that flame and kill him without you even having to see him, which is really nice. Work out for us that time. So we're going to grab that bow call and that mushroom. The big mushrooms are 100% heal of both HP and SP. You don't necessarily ever use that mushroom, but it's definitely is a good backup in case things come along. Kill these guys and grab one more weapon, and we are about to hit the end of the game. Try one more time to make the quick jump, and then... that's ridiculous. You can make that jump. You can jump at just the right frame and go from the left side into the middle and vice versa. I'm not feeling it today. Alright, so one more neat little trick I'm about to do. For whatever reason, when you go into a boss transition like this, if you take damage, but before the boss activates, my iframes are going to get stuck. I have iframes from getting hit by the hyper bomb at the very beginning, and the game never gets rid of them, and so I can no longer be hit through the duration of this fight. Which is good, because this fight is awful. All these meteors coming down, you can't use any of your spirits. There's the black hole you saw that was sucking me across. He's going to shoot this laser out of his eye, and the only way that you can hurt him is through that middle eye, which he constantly keeps closed unless you shoot him one of these left or rights with your spirit ball. And if he decides that he's going to just sit there and shoot the laser over and over again, you are not hitting him. Yes, this is the cover art. You see this face in the background, and it's very mysterious and off-putting, because it's mysterious and off-putting even in action. Like this. If he decides, oh, I'm doing the black hole, and I'm doing the Laser, your fight is going slow, and so being pretty far into the run, a very RNG heavy boss like this is... I was telling my wife, I think a really good descriptor for speedrunning in general is Sisyphusian. You're just pushing that boulder up the hill, and you get to the end, and 3i just lasers over and over and over and over again. That boulder comes crashing down behind you. That game over was on purpose. It gives you a full heal, and there's minimal time loss. So I like to get myself pretty low up against 3i and then just do this. So this is the final stretch of the game. It's technically a dungeon, but a lot of it's outside, so we can save and such. But this is the final dungeon of the game. We've skipped a very large portion of the narrative that would explain what any of this is that we're doing and seeing. We would have skipped all the narrative anyway, but this is essentially the spirit realm. This is where all of the four spirits that we've been, traveling with this whole time come from, and are... What's happening with these spikes? This is where they live, and so we've been called here by the Silver Armlet for some sort of a confrontation. The creator of the gauntlets is where we're headed towards. Sorry, I am trying to remember the route. This last dungeon is... I don't know. It's just about as technical as the bow dungeon that we did earlier. There's a lot we gotta do. Ideally, I would have the one last shot of the bow that I had to use all of in bow dungeon. But it's just a minor time save. We don't have to come across here if we've got the bow. So normally I'm doing all of this fairly just the way that it's intended so far. Excuse me. There's a switch down there that I'm trying to hit. I'm like, what's happening? But we're gonna grab this red key, and then we're gonna grab one more red key out here. And normally you would have to use both of those red keys to get into the last part of the dungeon, the actual castle part. But we're going to do a fun little out-of-bounds shenanigans, and we're just going to take 2 keys with us into the dungeon and save us a lot of time by being able to skip very large chunks of said dungeon. I'll take one more save just in case. This one can soft lock you. There we go. These sparks make this interesting, but if you crouch, they cannot hit you because their Z level is such they can only hit in the mid plane. One last safety save here. Need some pretty tight positioning to get this last out of bounds to work precisely, and that is perfect. The middle of these columns don't have any collision. I swear I'm doing this right. So for whatever reason, the plane to actually go through this door isn't in the door. It's the entirety of the plane at the north side of the screen. And so there's a red key door there. We're just not gonna use it. Very helpful in this dungeon because that means that we can skip most of it actually. I'm gonna grab a key from doing this little combat encounter here. There's obviously a switch puzzle. As you can see, there's a bunch of switches here. You need to get them all into the right orientation. Pretty obvious. So the one that's in the top right there is supposed to be only obtainable after you've done quite a bit more of the dungeon. We're about to get it in just a second. So if I can do this right, I can send Ifrit across the room. Nice. Got the crunch of the switch. I just lit 2 torches that are at the back end of the room without ever seeing them, because we don't want to see them. Okay, so what I'm trying to do is send Ifrit over, trick the game into thinking that his Z level is one where it isn't. And he can hit that switch up there for me, which will give us this blue key. And the blue key is the door. You can see there's a blue door up there. Much nicer than having to go through the entirety of the dungeon a second time. I'm going to try, I think, one time to get a bomb jump. You can bomb jump from the center platform. Nope, I'm not even going to try after that. It just fell off the side. This isn't too much slower. Unless you miss the platform. But then you get to hear all these beautiful screams. Ah! I apologize. I shouldn't be just jumping into the ether like this. Okay. We're on our way. First try. Easy. Excuse me, game. Where are these brain balls? I did want to hit that. Blue key. Could you use freaks to kill that so we can grab shade? This part is kind of freaky. There's a spirit. Oh, I don't have any SP either. There's a spirit enemy that does no physical damage to you whatsoever. It's this little ghost guy, but he drains your SP. Oh my gosh, no! He drains it really fast and will kill your spirit. If the SP drops to 0, your spirit disappears. Oh my gosh, that's so frustrating. Because now the spirit guy that I was going to summon shade with killed himself. The spikes are the real killer because they will stun lock you, and so I was sitting there trying to attack him, but the game was like, nah. Oh, there's raptors too. Anthropomorphized raptors. I don't know why that's an enemy, but I dig it. Almost lost shade there. Alright, so coming up here is the door that I was talking about earlier that we have yet to find a way to out of bounds through. This door requires you to have bow, and as of yet remains unskippable. However, if you can find a way to skip this door, you have a free world record on your hands. It is that big of a time save. Now we're coming up on the very last bite of the game here, if I can aim my spirit's abilities correctly. So this next room, you're supposed to do like a gauntlet against all these enemies. If you just walk on the right hand side, you can walk into the door. I don't know why they left that in, but I'll take advantage. So we're going to do a counter with these 4 guys. Hopefully we can trick our armor friend into killing his friends for us. Not too bad, not great. Oh, nice. And we'll take this. So, what's neat about being able to summon shade off of these guys, I can sit there and fail really, really hardcore. Thank goodness I could get it off his corpse. Alright, perfect, perfect, perfect. We want to get her trapped in this. Oh no, oh no. Things have gone horribly wrong. That's okay. Well, no, don't do that. We'll just do it slow. You want to get her trapped up in that corner, and then you can just kind of smack, 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 smack. Pretty good recovery, if I do say so, though, because that fight can get extremely out of hand. She summons bad guys. There's just like, she's got a giant AoE attack. not fun to let her be free. So here's the silver armlet, and this beautiful, totally normal guy. I was so freaked out by this boss when I was a kid and I got to him. I was like, what is happening? Am I having a nightmare? Like 7 hits. Alright, so yeah, he can't be hurt until you kill these little tentacle guys that he summons off on the side, so we want to take the bow call that we got in the second to last dungeon, summon him and use him to finish it off so we can get the most time on the head before he decides to mean. He can also breathe fire. Looks like we're gonna use a heal. How many slices? I got 2 more. Oh, don't hit that. Hit the tentacle. Are you too far? He's gonna summon another one. Yeah, there's already another one up. Oh no, there wasn't. He just was slow to becoming vulnerable. That's kind of strange. This is why we bogarted swords throughout the game, because he takes a lot of hits. And that is time. 54:35 is not a great time, but it's pretty fast. And that's beyond Oasis, any percent. We skipped a lot of the game, trust me. There's hidden dungeons galore, there's tons of lore to find, there's a bunch of enemies. This game is amazing, and I highly, highly encourage you all to go check it out. Even if not as a speed run, just play the game. It is well worth it. If you can get your hands on a Sega Saturn, or you're not above emulation, which I'm certainly not, I'm playing this on an emulator, please try out its sequel too, Legend of Oasis on Sega Saturn. Amazing game that follows this up. If this looked at all interesting to you, it's that, but even bigger. Yep, the credits, I don't imagine we probably have time to go through all of it. I think we were a little bit behind schedule when I came up, so yeah. I guess the one last thing that I would say before they cut me off and take my mic away is shout out to the Salsa Shack community on Twitch. You guys are the best, and I love you all. And once again, thank you to RGL for hosting this and putting this on. Everybody who's behind the scenes making the tech work, you guys are amazing. I'll be back 8-ish hours from now, at really, really early in the morning for me, for a bunch of indie NES games. I'll be playing Bobble from Morphcat Games. Please check it out. That game's amazing too. And then I'll be back for some Castlevania at the very end of the marathon. And, I'm super looking forward to doing that stuff. So thank you again for the opportunity, and I hope you all enjoyed this. Peace and love.